Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe. I love when reviews are left. I'm really excited for our guest today. Brad and I have known each other for quite a few years through Arte. Always looked up to this guy. He's an incredible, father, husband, business guy, fitness guru. I don't know if you call him that. He's a meathead. I don't really use that word, but definitely to fitness. And health and becoming a better person. And he's had quite a story to be able to get where he's at, very successful in a lot of different areas. So really excited to have him and see what you guys can glean from him. So thank you so much for the time today, Brad.
Angela, let me tell you about you for a moment, though. First off, super excited to be on this. Wasn't even in question when you asked me to be on. I've had the ability to witness what you've done over the course of the past 4 and 5 years and how you've connected with people and how the one thing that's been consistent with you as you have been a lighthouse, right? You have physically been a lighthouse that's constantly shining, that's constantly guiding and navigating people towards something positive. So let me tell you about you, Miss Angela Bradford. You are doing such a great job. So just keep it up. Okay.
So you can see why he's my friend, right? He's just great. Makes me feel good.
All right, good.
Let's get into some stuff. So you're a serial entrepreneur. I know you've had an assorted past to get to where you're at right now. Let's go into that. Let's go into like where you started and how you got to where you're at. I mean, that's a lot, but go ahead.
It's a lot to unpack. So grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, a little bit north of Philadelphia. Single mom, 2 sisters, typical urban city life, single mom. Went to Catholic school, got in a bunch of trouble, typical inner city kid, a lot of trouble in high school. Fast forward, went into the Marine Corps, got out of the Marine Corps, got in even more trouble. And after I'd gotten my last stint with the law, I decided I'm not going back there again. Really doubled down in fitness. Fitness was always something that I was part of, just working out, being in the gym, being a meathead. And then when I got out of prison, I landed a job with LA Fitness, and that was it was a corporate job. I was with them for almost 20 years, and that's where the bulk of my story kind of came from. Is being in the fitness industry and just being someone who was just pushing sales and leadership. Like that was my thing. Like I love being in the gym. I got to train, other meatheads. And I say meathead just, because we're gym guys, right? Training meatheads and training sales professionals to just really help people make that decision to just make a better life, right? In terms of their physical fitness. Like that's always been my thing, is just being part of teaching people and shining people and growing people. I did that for 20 years. And then as that was going on, my wife went back to school. She got her bachelor's degree in nursing, and she was going to be a midwife. She worked to bring babies home. Long story short, she fell into the aesthetics industry and literally became a goat. She's just forged her, here, this is a great example. She became the Ed Milet of nurse injecting, right? She's on fire. She's just doing her thing. That gave me the ability to walk away. We kind of had to switch roles, revert roles. But I could say the aesthetics industry was, my wife taking that entrepreneurial plunge gave me the ability to take the entrepreneurial plunge. So that I have a couple other ventures that we've grown in, but my main thing is to support and just make sure that just aesthetic nursing is doing what it needs to do so my wife can do what she does. And then obviously taking care of home. And, we've been in, the business has been in business for almost 4.5 years, 5 years, and it's just thriving, which then has given me the ability to venture off. And I launched a credit repair company. We have another project that we're working on that we're getting ready to launch here towards the end of July. And it gave me just the ability to focus on what I like to do the best, and that's connecting with people, right? Connecting and coaching. Teamed up with, Ben Newman. I got that under the belt right now. So working with Ben has just been amazing. Just different mindset when we talk about discipline, but it's it's been a crazy ride. It's been so good. And then obviously the big component that you and I both are a part of is in 2018, Arte came into our life. That was just a huge mindset shift, to be able to believe what's possible. And, I was in my corporate job as we started Arte, right? I was still a vice president. I was still doing my thing. I was still working 70 hours a week. And my wife started to get into aesthetics. So as these two things were just steamrolling, she's learning, she's growing, I'm listening to Ed and Andy. And then it was just like, it just made sense to take the entrepreneurial plunge. So everything, worked out. My wife's an absolute beast. She's a powerhouse on the front end. And I just really just the support system to make sure that machine's still rolling.
That's cool. So you went into the Marines. What got you into the Marines? And then why do you think you went down a downhill trend after?
Went in the Marines because I got in trouble. Senior year in high school, got arrested, and I was still a juvenile. And I made some cockamamie story that I was going into the Marine Corps to the police, and the recruit. It's fun. It's actually a funny story. The recruiter was, how the recruiters come out to high school and they try to recruit high school students. Do you remember Benny Hill? Do you remember Benny Hill? That show Benny Hill. It was a comedy from it was just a very weird comedy, but there was this dude, Benny Hill, that did this salute. And when he saluted, he was like always making fun of people. He would salute like this and he'd put his hand like backwards. And I remember I was being a dumbass, just sitting out in front of FCAF, making fun of the Marine Corps guy. I was like, yes, sir, sir, yes, sir. Being a little asshole that I was. And I remember I grabbed his business card before I left. I get in trouble like 2 weeks later, and I had this card on, and I told the person that I got in trouble with, I was like, I won't be able to go in the Marine Corps if these charges are pressed on me. And they were like, let's talk to the recruiter. So I call the recruiter and I'm like, hey, I want to join. I want to be all I could be. He was like, first, stop with all the Army jokes. This is the Marine Corps. He was like, if you're serious, we're going to do this. And I'm like, yeah. So fast forward, recruiter came, I enrolled, they dropped the charges, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, I changed my mind. It was just like, no, that's not how it works. You ship out November 24th, you ship out, like you're going, like November 18th, you're going. And that's how I got into the Marine Corps. And I couldn't talk my way out of that one. That was for sure. But again, that was such a good thing because I needed structure, right? Up until that point, there was no strong male role model in my life. And the Marine Corps gave me that. It gave me the structure. It gave me being a part of a team, how to work as a team. And then I naturally led into leadership positions, from being a guide on, I was a squad leader, and then from a squad leader to a guide. And, it just kind of progressed in leadership just because it's kind of who I am. So the Marine Corps was great. Got out of the Marine Corps, and then I moved down to Florida and I was with the wrong crowd. We use that term, your network is your net worth, right? Well, your network is definitely a part of how you're going to succeed or how you're going to fail. And I was with the part that failed, right? We were doing a lot of bad things, doing a lot of drugs, selling a lot of drugs. And then I got arrested. And then that was the pivotal point, was after I got arrested, just deciding, I'm never going to go back that way again. Like, that was the game changer. Like, there was people in there that got locked up like multiple times, like 3-4 times they're in there, they're doing a bid. And I'm just like, this isn't how you're supposed to live. Like, this isn't how it should be. And then in prison is when I got my GED. I got my certified personal training certificate. I really just doubled down into the health club gym atmosphere. And then for 3.5 years, I just studied and grinded. And when I got out, got a personal training job, got to a management job, literally just progressed, and LA Fitness came into my life, and I rode with them for 20 years. We didn't look back. So it was a pretty fun ride.
What are some things that you would give for, I guess, tips or whatever? You say net worth is, or your network is really important. And so when you got out of prison and, a bunch of people that were still back in your life, and I'm sure they were like, oh my gosh, you're back, Brad, like, let's hang out. I'm sure that happened. How did you separate? What did you do, to separate from them specifically?
Yeah, I just did not even connect with them. I just cut the cord because there was no, one or two things can happen when you go into prison. You could either rehab, reform, get better, or you can become a better criminal. Like, it's fact. Like, when you're in prison, you could learn and craft skills the same way that I learned and crafted skills of health and fitness in my diploma. You could do the same thing. And it just was making a decision just not to go back that way. Do I know these guys? Yeah. Do I have street cred? Is there loyalty? Absolutely. But it wasn't a way to live. And then the biggest blessing of everything is, like, a year and a half after I got out, my wife got pregnant with Natalie. And that was just a complete game changer, being responsible for another individual, being a dad. I had no clue, that's really when everything just started to change.
So did you meet your wife before you were in prison or after prison?
After prison. After prison. And but the crazy thing is we went to the same middle school together.
Oh,
we went
wow.
to the same Catholic school together. Matter of fact, even growing up, she lived right up the street from me. Like, and her friends were my friends' cousins. So, like, I remember seeing these little girls when we were little playing, and this was my wife, 30 years later. It's crazy how it all panned out.
So cool. That's awesome. I love it. So,
Yeah.
and then you went in and you started building you started actually working for, a company. What are some things that you see people do right or people do, I don't know if wrong is the right word, correct word on that, but, like, what are some things people do in sales and leadership? Because it's something you really specialize in that, they shouldn't do or should do differently.
With sales and leadership, I think, we'll just unpack sales for a second. I think sales, not I think, I know, sales is really just replacing the word sell with the word help. And I think, you hear people talk about this, and it's Instagrammable, but the reality of it is, I don't care what you're selling. I don't care if you're selling pens. I don't care if you're selling electronics, financial services, gym memberships, whatever. At the end of the day, it's you making a connection with that person and listening to what they're saying, right? Like, listening to what their problem is, listening to what it is that they're coming to you for. Like, and that's one thing salespeople don't do, is they just want to talk and they want to just throw up all over you with what they can do for you and how they can help you, instead of just pausing and just listening, and just listening to what it is that they want. And then coming up with a game plan with your product. And here, this is even another thing. Maybe your product might not be the solution for them. I think, that's an important part of sales. Like, you don't always have the solution to sell that person. They may need something completely different. And that's okay. Like, I remember multiple times, and I'm thinking of, like, me, and I'm thinking of you with financial services, maybe a whole life policy isn't the thing that they need. Maybe that's not what they need. Maybe they need a term. Maybe they need to diversify somewhere else. For me, maybe this gym wasn't the gym that they needed. Maybe they needed a powerlifting gym, right? Maybe they needed something that was more sports specific. So when it comes to sales, it's really just listening to what the person wants and then just coming up with a solution that makes sense. And I think that's where the gift is making it make sense, that people can make a decision to buy instead of them being sold. Right? Because we've all been in that situation where we were sold something and we're sitting there and we're just like, what the hell did I just do? Like, no one likes that feeling. So if you can deliver the message in a way where you make it make sense, you make them feel good about their decision-making process, and they want to do it because they know they need it and they know they could benefit from it, then the package all becomes about them. I truly believe that's where most salespeople drop the ball. And then the second part where they drop the ball is, I've seen this happen so many times. The second they get a no, and it's like sales 101, the second they get a no or they get a rejection, you literally see a physiological change in their energy. It's just like, oh my God, it's like depressed. Like most salespeople don't know how to accept the no. And that's okay. Like the one thing that I teach, I've always taught my salespeople, you got to expect they're going to say no. Like they just know right off the rip, they're going to say no. Like you're not some great hardcore closer. They're going to and that was that had nothing to do with Ryan, just so you know. It's terms just been.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I said it on another podcast and someone was like, you're talking shit about, I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with Ryan.
No one knows who Ryan is probably on here.
So okay, good.
If you do, nothing to do with it.
Right. Like it's really just listening to that person, right? And making it make sense. And when they buy, it's because they wanted to do it. Like that, it's such an important part of just listening and just being there for their client. And then the second part is, this is where I was going, I got sidetracked. After they say no, which is okay, still making them your friend. Mm. It's okay that they've said no to you. It's not personal. Mm-hmm. They didn't say no to Brad Modrich. They didn't say no to Angela Bradford. They just said no to the product that you're choosing. It's not a personal thing. And I think so many salespeople, they take it personal. It's not personal. And then the third would be executing an amazing follow-up. After, you presented your product, they said yes or no. We're always good to give the thank you cards to the people who buy from us. Why not say thank you to the people who even gave you an opportunity? Simple thank you. And then the follow-up. Listening, making it make sense. Don't getting offended when they say no, and having a strong follow-up. I think that is some of the key fundamentals of great sales.
I love it. Super simple. And leadership. What do you see for leadership? What do you see people do or don't do properly in leadership?
Ooh, how much time do we got?
Session one, session two.
Oh yeah. This is a funny thing. And this is, we are in this little social circle of Arte and all these people that we know. And people, they talk about leadership as like a catchphrase. I want to downshift here because this has been just vibrating on me really, really hard, because leadership has to be accountable. That's number one. Leadership has to be accountable. And I see too many leaders not being accountable. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is leadership is also by action, by what you do, not what you say. And I think, we get caught up in the marketing of social media because some people are great marketers. They have a great way to make a message sound really good. But the reality of it is when when that camera shuts off, are they living the life that they're preaching? And I think that has to be the found. Accountability is the first part, and leading by example. Those are the two unquestionable ingredients in the foundation of leadership. You've got to be accountable.
Can you break that down a little bit? Because I know the word accountability goes out there and lots of people talk about it. And I just think sometimes it's mixed. And I'm actually curious, what do you mean by being accountable?
That's a great question. So there's the accountability. You have the people that will say, I did wrong, I screwed up, I'm holding myself accountable. Right? Mm-hmm. We have those people, but are they continuing to do that same thing over and over again? And they're using accountability as like a safety net to get them out of their leadership mantle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen time and time again. I've seen it happen all the time. And they're just like, well, I held myself accountable. But if going into something that you did something before again and again and again and again, your accountability doesn't mean shit. It really doesn't. Like true accountability is when you do something wrong and you really do not do it again. Mm-hmm. Like there's accountability to it. Your intentions match your actions, which match your accountability. Right. Mm-hmm. And it can be used, accountability. Like people, like, again, it's marketing. People use this word accountability for marketing. I'm accountable. As a leader, you got to be accountable. Mm-hmm. But when you peel it back and you really get granular with accountability, it is literally, it's a mirror. It's a mirror. There's no distortion in it. It is a crystal clear mirror. It is as clean as it could be. It is a direct reflection of you. And most people don't understand. Number one, they got to look in that mirror first to be accountable. Most people don't do that. They could talk it, but they don't do it. And then not letting the same thing happen over and over and over again. I think it's pretty simple. Accountability, man, it's such a powerful word too. Like accountability, like when you're accountable, you're responsible, right? So like if you take accountability and responsibility, they kind of come hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you're responsible to make sure that you're making the good decisions. You're responsible to make sure that you don't make the same mistake twice. It's your responsibility. And I think that's the part where people screw up, is the responsibility to hold themselves. What are the responsibilities that come with accountability?
What do you think helps build those muscles? Do you think this is like a common thing? People are born leaders or they're not leaders. Well, everyone's born. But like, how do you think someone could work on some of those skills that maybe don't have it right away, but they're willing to work on it? What are some things that, have helped you become, you went from a convicted felon to accountability and responsibility, which is kind of interesting. So what are some things that could help someone build those muscles?
I am a big fan of writing things down, the critical task list. We've heard this a million times. And I think accountability first starts within. Right. And I think how they build those muscles is being accountable to doing little things, right? Focusing on the micro disciplines. How I did it and how I teach people, especially with personal development, and I'm just going to use personal development as an idea, is you got to be accountable to a couple things, like move your body for 30 minutes a day, drink a half a gallon of water a day, eat 2 good meals a day. Like, can you be accountable to do some of these micro disciplines for yourself? Right. And I think this is where people really drop the ball, is because they don't fix themselves first with the micro disciplines. They're not accountable to do those things. They're not accountable to wake up early. They're not accountable to go to the gym or whatever that exercise thing is. And I think real accountability, again, starts with yourself and those little wins that you can do. So how do you exercise those muscles? I did this back in 2020. I actually heard Brad Lee. Matter of fact, it was Brad was speaking to the Milari group. He did something for one of Ed's groups, and someone was trying to recruit me into the group, and they're like, "Hey, you got to listen to this." And I listened to Brad, and it was, I love Andy and Ed. We know that.
Yeah.
But when I heard Brad say this, it just made sense. Your brain's like a supercomputer. Records everything. It records when you say you're going to do something. It records the conversation. It records everything. So if I say tomorrow, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go to the gym, and I wake up tomorrow morning and I don't go to the gym, I pretty much lied to myself, because I told myself I was going to do something, but I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Now, zoom out for a minute. If I told you I was going to be here for a 10 o'clock call and I didn't show, and I called you and was like, "Oh, Angela, man, I'm so sorry. I was going to play. I said I was going to be there." And you're like, "Okay," because you're a nice person. "No worries, Brad. Let's schedule it out." I call you again and I do it. I say, "I'm going to be there." And I no show. I do it again. By the third time, you're just like, "Dude,
you know what? Let's just skip this."
Yeah, it's so illogical, because you do that to yourself every time that you say you're going to do something and don't do it.
Wow. That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So listen to this. If you're telling yourself that you're going to do something and you don't do it, that's the inside just nucleus of accountability. It starts with that one little thing. Now, imagine this. Let's go on the reverse. I woke up. I said I was going to go to the gym. I go to the gym. Check it off the box. I did that for a whole week. I can look back at my week and I said, I did it. I did what I said I was going to do. I checked it off. You start building these muscles. Now, let's say I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to drink a gallon of water. I'm going to read 10 pages a day. And I'm going to do that. Let's say those are the first 3 things that I'm going to work on every day. I'm going to do that for 30 days. And you check them off the box for 30 days. Now you can look back and you said, I did it. This is where the magic happens. When you look back and you did what you actually said you were going to do, it puts a deposit into your ethos. It puts a deposit into who you are. It starts to build self-confidence. It starts to strengthen the discipline muscle. It strengthens the accountability muscle. And all of those things come into play. All because you went to the gym. All because you drank some water. All because you read some book. That's how you strengthen that accountability muscle. It starts by the little micro wins every single day. How the hell are you going to move something really big if you can't even move the little things on a day-to-day basis? It's never going to happen.
No.
That's how you strengthen it. And then discipline will be the foundation of it. And then when you strengthen your discipline muscle, the accountability muscle just becomes concrete. Because when you say you're going to do something and you do it, people know. Like I said, I was going to be here. I'll be here at 10 o'clock. I'm here. I show up. I just built my accountability and confidence in what you thought of Brad Modrich just by showing up and being here and performing. Same thing works on the inside. So the people who are struggling, the people who they think they're accountable, but they're not. Look at your track record. Really take a look. Here, I'll use you as an example. Look at your track record. Look at what you've accomplished in the past 4 years. That didn't happen by mistake. That happened because you held yourself accountable. You put in the work. You did what you said you were going to do. You didn't make excuses. You continue to drive. Has it been perfect? Absolutely not. Not at all. My brain is a shit show. Probably the biggest shit show in the world. I am a complete fucked up mess. Like my head, I'm everywhere. I'm up and down. I drive my wife probably fucking half out of her mind half the time. Unquestionable. But I will show up. I will hold myself accountable. And then when you say I hold myself accountable, it means something.
Well, I love your comparison. I think that's so good.
Makes sense?
It totally makes sense. I think it's really simple for anyone listening. Like if someone quit showing up every time you ask them to show up and then they quit, eventually you just quit asking them. And so that's what's happening if you quit showing up for yourself, which is intense and so true. Because I just think of people that no show as part of business. And you're like, eventually you're just like, I don't want to talk to, I'm not even going to try. Like it's not worth it. And so that's what we do with ourselves. And that's like, wow, that's so powerful. I love it. I know we could go on, but in wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions and then anything that you didn't touch on that you think, just really impactful for our listeners to hear. First final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
Look inside.
Cool. Number 2, what's a favorite quote and why?
Positive things happen to positive people who take positive action. This has literally been, it's on my personal checks. I've literally had that on my checks for like 20 years because I truly believe with a positive attitude and a positive mindset, with the right positive actions behind it, you can have an amazing life. It may not be picture perfect, but I can guarantee you that when you look back and you live by that simple principle, your life will be in a better position.
So good. What's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
He didn't quit.
Cool. So you run into someone at the local, whatever, coffee shop, and they're like, hey, Brad, that was amazing. I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to start doing some of this stuff you've been talking about. What's something we didn't touch on that you just think is really important for our listeners to hear?
Oh, man. It's the same thing a lot of people say. I truly believe right now we are in a very unique place and time. And how any of us get better is by focusing and us becoming better. I am a firm believer that people should be taking care of their body, their mind, their spirit, and their finances. And the combination of those four things, they will live a pretty cool life. Move your body, feed your brain. When those two come working synergistically together, the spirit starts to kind of rise because the mind and body are working together. And then when you get those all three things working together, the byproduct is the finances typically go up. That's what I would say.
Keep track of everything.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, guys. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe. We'll have Brad's information. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I know he's super helpful. Definitely, let's go out there. Let's change the world one starfish or one person at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Angela. Appreciate you. You're doing great. Keep up the great job.